Yo, what up?
Probably. I think
Sitting here listening to
price
some
controls,
Peter
capital
Schiff.
controls where they make it
I'll play some H
difficult
hour.
or impossible to get money out of the country. I mean, they've already made it difficult.
Got Schiff
now
over
with
there.
all
He's talking
the
mad shit.
regulation, all the money laundering and stuff that we got from the last crisis. Or actually, not the last crisis. The crisis in 2000 after the September 11th bombing. We lost a lot of individual liberty there, not because we got bombed, but because of what the politicians did in reaction. I mean, that's happening again. Regardless of how real or manufactured the coronavirus crisis is, and let's just assume for a moment that it's as bad as the worst case scenario for the coronavirus. The greater problem is how our politicians are taking advantage of this crisis to do all sorts of things that they never could have done, right? All sorts of terrible socialist, draconian legislation that destroys individual rights and liberty, that never could get through Congress during a normal period, always goes through in a crisis. And so you are going to see some unbelievable liberty-destroying, freedom-destroying, economic-destroying bills being signed into law by President Trump. So if you thought he was going to drain the swamp, you were wrong. If you thought he was going to make America great again, not even close. All right. Oh, turn that down. When hyperinflation occurs and gold and silver skyrocket, what can customers of goldmoney.com do to protect themselves from a massive capital gain, as well as possible gold confiscation? Well, yes, I mean, the best way to protect yourself from gold confiscation is to have your gold in your own possession. So if you get some gold from Schiff Gold, no one's going to find it. I mean, unless you're dumb enough to turn it in, you're going to have it. But yeah, if they go to the banks, I mean, don't have it in a U.S. bank. I mean, don't have it in a safety deposit box in a U.S. bank. You'll never get it out of there. Gold Money has all of its gold outside the United States. So hopefully if the United States is dumb enough to confiscate gold or corrupt enough to do it, then other nations will refuse to cooperate and turn in the gold. But who knows? I don't know what kind of crimes. I mean, maybe it'll be a capital offense. I don't know what they're going to do to people who don't turn in gold that they have a record of, or they can find that you have it. As far as capital gains, I mean, obviously, yeah, that's a problem. I mean, because I think Donald Trump is going to lose. I think Joe Biden is going to be the next president of the United States. I think the capital gains tax is going to go way, way up. Who knows? There could be a windfall profits tax on anybody who escaped the collapse. I mean, they may try to vilify. They may try to blame the hyperinflation on the speculators who own gold. And they may say, we're not going to let these speculators profit. Other people are suffering. Let's have a
Damn the pistol.
95% capital gains tax on gold. When it's not even really capital gains. You're just avoiding a massive loss due to inflation. So I don't really know. Obviously, if you have the gold in your physical possession, if you never sell it, then you have no tax to pay. Now, if you technically use it in a barter transaction, right, then
I was hoping they went over
on the appreciation.
my freaking mines I put.
Take your gold and you exchange it with somebody for goods and services. But how does the government know you made that exchange? I mean, the guy that you traded with isn't going to file some kind of form to tell them that he performed some service and you gave him some silver. There's going to be a big underground economy if we have hyperinflation. And so they're not going to be able to tax the underground economy. I mean, that's why it's underground, because nobody knows about the transaction. So if you're worried about all that stuff, physical gold and silver in your possession is the only way to go.
And Bitcoin.
Now, taxes, like one of the things I did, I got zero capital gains tax because I live in Puerto Rico. And I got an Act 22 decree. So that's another thing you can do. You can move to Puerto Rico.
Peter loves Bitcoin. He knows it.
And I sell the gold that I bought for, if I buy it today, I can buy it for, $1,500, whatever it is. If I sell it for $1 million, I don't owe a nickel. I don't owe a nickel to the Puerto Rican government, and I don't owe one to the U.S. government. So if you want the same deal that I got, it's open to everybody. Just move here. Let me see. Next question. Is the two $500 billion repos on a day that the Fed announced last inflationary? What do you think of Bill Ackman's idea of shutting down the U.S. for 30 days to get rid of the virus? Yes, I was watching this asinine statement that Bill Ackman made. But before I get to
he was up there. Come on, bro. Where you at?
$500 billion repos.
Camping?
Yes, it's all.
Oh, come on
when
with the
Fed
pistol
first started,
again,
when they
bro.
first intervened in the repo market by buying up these bills.
The pistol
What they did in the
again,
repo
bro.
market. And the reason that they came in to buy the bonds is because nobody else was buying them, and interest rates were soaring. And so to continue to artificially suppress interest rates to keep the air from coming out of the bubble, the Fed printed the money to buy the bonds, and their balance sheet expanded. That's quantitative easing. At least that's what they labeled it when they did it in 2008. I just call it debt monetization.
Damn, I had somebody on my team, but he bounced.
And then now they're buying all sorts of maturities, and they refuse to label it quantitative easing. They're embarrassed to call it quantitative easing, even though it's exactly what they did. But now they just announced they're not just buying obligations that are guaranteed by the government. When they did the QE the first time, 1, 2, and 3, they were buying treasuries and mortgage-backed securities that were guaranteed through the GSEs, the government-sponsored enterprises. Now, they just announced, and it's probably even illegal, but they announced it, they're buying or accepting as collateral, which is the same thing because they're printing money. In fact, we already have a bank bailout now, right? They're allowing the banks to bring their collateral to the Fed and get cash that they need because otherwise they would all fail. All these big banks we bailed out that are now bigger now would all be failing. That's why the financials are collapsing.
Come on, Spencer. Stop texting.
Anyway, I gotta stop this text from coming. These people from texting me because it's
Fucking Spencer.
I'm gonna tell them.
Say, bro. Stop texting me, bro. Me? No, right this moment. Thank you, though.
What was I saying?
Dude, why is
Yeah,
my
so
shit all messed up?
The Federal Reserve is now doing is they're allowing the banks to deposit corporate bonds that are not guaranteed by the government and municipal bonds, right? Obligations of municipalities that are not guaranteed by the federal government, and even equities, common stock. I mean, that could go to zero. Companies that could go bankrupt. How is the Fed supposed to accept that as collateral? So we have just gone off the deep end now. But yes, this is all massive inflation, right? We are just printing all this money, and everybody thinks that the money is going to hold on to its value. Just like everybody, thought the Treasury bond market was a safe haven until it just blew up. People think a lot of things that aren't true. People are in for a rude awakening. Remember how surprised everybody was by the 2008 financial crisis? I wasn't surprised. I predicted it for years as people laughed at me because I understand the problem.
I wasn't paying attention, bro, but I'm here now.
The people who think the Fed fixed the problem that they didn't understand are wrong. I knew that they made the problem worse because I understood it. And I understand what's going to happen now. They don't. They're going to be in for a rude awakening when we have a currency crisis and a sovereign debt crisis. As far as Bill Ackman, who is obviously a very bright guy, he's been very successful in life, more successful than me, right? So, I mean, he's achieved a lot of financial success as a hedge fund manager. I've never really been in that except for my short experience, shorting subprime, which we did on a small scale, was wildly successful. But that's the only time I ventured into the hedge fund world. But he's a smart guy.
Yes, dude. Keeps wrecking me with the pistol.
All take 30 days off. I mean, first of all, the idea that we're
sit down in that chair, though.
Virus in 30 days.
Damn.
How do you know we all come out of hiding after 30 days and the virus is still here?
Right.
There's no guarantee that if we just disappear for 30 days that the virus is going to be cured.
Right. I thought that same thing.
Days? What if it's a year? The whole thing is preposterous.
Yep.
But what Ackman doesn't understand is we can't afford a 1-month vacation. The entire country is going to stop working for a month and the federal government's going to give everybody money? One of these other guys on CNBC said, Andrew Ross Sorkin, who actually quoted me in his first book about the crash, because I was one of the few people he mentioned who saw the crisis coming, and I mentioned that Lehman or one of that was going to go bankrupt. But even when other analysts were saying how solvent they were, I said they're going to fail, they're going to go bankrupt. All the people that are saying that the banks are in great shape now. It's not like 2008. Those are the same people that said the banks were in great shape in 2008. They only realized that they were in bad shape after they went bankrupt. It's not a coincidence that the financials are among the weakest stocks, other than the airlines and the cruise ships. The stocks that are sinking faster than the ocean liners are the financials, because this is another financial crisis. But if the government were to pay everybody's bills for 30 days, if the government were to loan everybody and every company money interest-free for 5 years, like Andrew Warsaw wants, the dollar would collapse. We would have runaway inflation. The money doesn't have any value. What gives money value is the goods and services that we produce. But if nobody's producing goods and services, if all we're producing is money, we've produced nothing, and the money is worth nothing. This is the threat. This is the danger. They don't realize they're playing with fire here in destroying the dollar even sooner rather than later. Now, this was inevitable anyway, and it probably should have already happened a long time ago. But the fact that it's happening now, when the problems are so much bigger, it is going to be so much worse. The only way that this could work, right, where the Federal Reserve could print all this money and it wouldn't collapse, is if foreigners were willing to accept all these dollars, even though we just flooded the world with them, and they were going to keep sending us merchandise. Right there, all the imports from China were going to keep coming in exchange for dollars, even though we've just printed them by the tens of trillions. Well, the world is not that dumb. But even if they were that dumb, they're not going to do it, because the rest of the world is dealing with the same problem we are. So they don't have extra money to loan to us. They don't have surplus products to ship to us. They need the stuff themselves, right? So we're not going to get any of that stuff. We're just going to have all this money. See, we're used to printing money and sending it abroad, and then foreigners take that money and buy our treasuries. Well, when that process stops, we print money and it stays right here. Well, what are we going to do with it? See, we're used to money going out and goods coming back. Now we're going to have no goods coming in, and we're going to be up to our eyeballs in money, right? So It's inflation. And so what these guys are saying just shows you how clueless they are, how clueless Ackman is. And
it's going to inflate, that's for sure.
Who thinks that there's no limit to how much money that we can print, and that we're not going to do any damage. We're going to do more damage with the printing press than the coronavirus is going to do, by getting us sick. And more people will probably end up dying because we destroy the economy, destroy the money, and we have mass, civil unrest and riots and looting. I mean, who knows what we're about to unleash? This is going to be a man-made economic catastrophe.
It's going to be inflation, bro.
And you don't have to blame Mother Nature for this. This is man-made. We did this. The Fed, the government. It's not a natural thing. The one thing that makes sense to me, right, as far as what we do with this, and I guess I've heard about this in the UK, this health industry or death, right? And of course, we already know when you're 80 and 90, that's true with everything. I mean, you get pneumonia when you're in your 80s or 90s, there's a good chance you're going to die. You get it in your 20s, you're probably going to be okay. 80-year-olds, you fall out of bed at night in your sleep. There's a good chance that the fall is going to kill you. Right? I mean, a lot of things don't
what you
work
talking about, Peter?
When you're in your 80s. And I'm not insensitive. And, my mom is 79 a couple days ago. She'll be in her 80s. I hope she's around in her 90s. But she may not be. I mean, most people that make it to 80 don't make it to 90. So a lot of people die in their 80s anyway. And so they have to be careful. But this is what I think we should do. People who are in their 80s or maybe their 70s, they should definitely self-quarantine themselves for a while. Stay at home and just don't come into contact with other people, right? Just, stay alone. And a lot of people in their 80s and 90s, they're not working anyway. They're already at home. I mean, they're not in the
Babe, what are you making, eggs?
Productive. So they can stay at home. They can watch television. They can be on the internet. I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, it's not like they're going out, skydiving and snowboarding or kite surfing. I mean, they're in their 80s. They're at home, so they can stay at home. It's not the worst thing in the world. I
forget where I put these mines.
I mean, you risk death every time you leave the house. So I think the risk is very, very low from what we know for young people. Now, if young people are out and about, don't go visit your grandparents. If you live with an old person, make sure they're quarantined, right? Because you don't want to bring the virus home, right? Little kids can still go to school. They're not going to get sick. It's sick, but they're not going to die. They're going to get better. And if you're thinking, oh, well, maybe we're going to have a lot of people who go to the hospital, fine. Let's spend our money on that, not on this ridiculous.
Trying some Rambo shit.
Business. A lot of people aren't traveling right now. That means there's a lot of hot hotels. So there are more efficient ways to potentially deal with this. Because what we're talking about now is off the charts.
Pistol,
crazy,
baby.
But the hubris of people to think it's possible. Because people think the money that we print is so precious and it has so much value. And there's no limit to how much.
Nah, we don't. We know that shit ain't worth nothing. That's
That's
why we buy Bitcoin, Peter.
You know, there's an expression about the straw that breaks the camel on the back of this camel. So it's going to collapse.
What, you just lag, bro?
Anyway, let me go to the next question.
Peter, you lagging.
I'm a fraternity brother of Eric Worthy.
What? How did I not kill him?
And oppose him on Bitcoin.
Ah!
I know Eric. He's a nice guy. He's the guy that helped me set up my Bitcoin wallet. Fortunately, he never told me my password. Never told me my seed phrase. I had no idea that I needed one. All I had was my PIN.
He had
I
it.
don't remember, but doesn't work.
Eric had it.
Bitcoin I've ever owned. I have been lost in the
He was given some.
stratosphere or the ecosystem of Bitcoin in cyberspace.
Eric had it.
So I am now a no coiner, and as you know, or if you don't know, I just won a Scammy award. Unfortunately, I wasn't there to accept it in Las Vegas. You know, I have the video up on my YouTube channel. So I won the Scammy award as the most coolest Bitcoin non-coiner. Anyone want to answer this question? The potential exchange shutdown makes me worry about bank liquidity. Would Bitcoin be viable in a market shutdown, and will you expand on that a bit? Well, here's the problem.
Of course it will be.
You know, Bitcoin is not really functioning as a medium of exchange. That is the problem. I mean, they've said it's digital gold, which it's not.
Oh, here we go.
But if you actually wanted to go buy something, I don't think most merchants are going to accept Bitcoin.
Yo, you got to push in L3 or take off your single shot. You got it on single shot.
And that's not what they want. But when cash collapses, I think they will take gold or silver. And here's one of the problems out there. A lot of the people around the world,
yeah, not right
just
now.
the United States, a lot of people have Bitcoin as their savings. A lot of younger people.
Yeah,
like
no
that's
shit.
The main owner.
No
right?
shit.
The younger generation, because, you know, they were foolish enough and naive enough. They didn't have enough experience, and they bought into this hype. Right?
No, we understand digital value.
And now these guys are going to lose their jobs, and they're going to need some money to buy stuff. Well, if all their savings is in Bitcoin, they got to sell. And so I think the price of Bitcoin is going to collapse along with the stock market.
Oh, these motherfuckers, they're both over there.
People aren't using it as a medium of exchange. I mean, people were speculating that they may use it as a medium of exchange in the future at some point. But if people need their money in the present, then they're going to sell. And the reason that Bitcoin hasn't collapsed is because so many people have been hodling it because they don't want to sell. Because they're waiting for $1 million of Bitcoin.
And it will happen.
But as Bitcoin cracks and it's going lower and lower and lower, people will eventually sell. They'll
No.
cash in what they have left because they need the money.
People won't sell.
So, you know, I just think that, you know, while is it possible that Bitcoin can go up in this environment? Yes, anything is possible.
Oh, here we
I think
go.
it's probable, no. Would I want to bet on it? No.
Here we go.
Next question. What's your devil's advocate argument for long-term deflation? Well, I believe in long-term deflation. I don't have to have a devil's advocate. I believe in it. But you have to understand what everything is deflating against. Things are deflating against real money. Gold. Everything is getting cheaper in terms of gold. Consumer goods are getting cheaper. Commodities are getting cheaper. Financial assets is getting cheaper. Real estate is getting cheaper. Go to Zimbabwe. They had hyperinflation in Zimbabwe.
Let's talk about versus gold.
Deflation in terms of gold. That's what's going to happen. See, the reason I think we're not going to have deflation in terms of paper money is because the central banks won't let that happen. Here is the only way that we will have deflation in terms of the dollar. There's only
We
one
won't.
way that's going to happen.
Maybe short
The
term.
government has to act responsibly and bail nobody out. Let everybody fail. Don't create money out of thin air and give it to anybody. Let banks fail and don't bail them out. Let pension funds fail and don't let them bail them out. Tell people who are getting Social Security checks, we don't have any money because the people who were working and paying payroll taxes aren't working right now. And since it's a Ponzi scheme and the people putting into the scheme have stopped putting in, we've got no money to pay you, right? So in order for the dollar not to crash, in order for there to be deflation, the government has to do that. Now, I don't believe there's one chance of the U.S. government acting responsibly in that rate. I can't see it.
They
Not
won't.
this
Yeah.
government, not in this country. I think the government is going to tell everybody not to worry. Everyone's going to be made whole. It's nobody's fault that this bad thing is happening, so the government will pay everybody. The government's going to get everybody through this.
Good game.
Nobody's going to lose any money. We're going to give everybody money. That guarantees that everybody will lose. They won't lose their money. Everyone's going to get their money. It's just that the money is going to have no value. Everybody's going to lose their purchasing power. Everybody's going to be wiped out because the government wants to make sure that nobody loses anything. And because they're trying to make sure nobody loses anything, then everybody's going to lose everything. That is the problem. Except the people who are following my advice and doing what I'm telling them to do, and have been telling them to do, to prepare for a crisis that is now very, very close at hand.
I stink.
Next up. Russia has been hoarding gold en masse and can produce oil in the single digits. Are they going to be a real player in the global economy? Yes, they will. I mean, Russia's smart. Russia's been accumulating gold. And Russia knows that once all of the U.S. shale producers are bankrupt, and they are all bankrupt now, whether they declared it or not, they're going to be able to jack up the price of oil dramatically. And so is Saudi Arabia. The reason that we became self-sufficient in oil is because we had the credit bubble that enabled the shale oil producers to leverage up, to get a lot of cheap money to drill oil that we probably never should have drilled because it was non-economical, but for the cheap money. Also, a lot of the shale wells that we drilled, and I know from experience, I learned the hard way, I lost a lot of money personally. Clients lost money. We got into the shale oil boom really early, expecting to make money. And like just about everybody
Looks
else,
like your gun went on single shot again.
we got clobbered. I mean, the people that made money were the people that owned the land and then sold the leases to the oil company. The people that invested with the drillers and the operators, we got clobbered because it didn't work. Because all of the production was gone after the first year. And the other problem was all the numbers looked like they worked when oil was $100 a barrel, except it only stayed up at $100 a barrel for a few years. Then the price crashed, and all the production crashed too. But everybody took on debt because they thought, this is great. Let's borrow money and drill all these wells. We're all going to get rich. So what's going to happen is these companies are going bankrupt. The investors are losing their money. And our oil production is going to collapse. And then if we want any oil, we're going to have to import it again. But how are we going to pay for it when the dollar crashes? So after oil prices crash, they're going through the roof. Not only are we going to be back up at $100 a barrel, we'll be at $200 a barrel, $300 a barrel, right? The collapse is paving the way for the oil price to skyrocket. And the foreign oil companies that don't go bankrupt are going to make a killing in the oil market in the future once the high-cost producers in the U.S. are completely taken out of the equation. And that's what's coming. Okay, let's see. Peter, do you see the Fed failing to create inflation as a measure of last resort, reinstate the gold standard, and maintain the U.S. reserve currency? Look, if I was advising Donald Trump, and I have mutual friends with Trump, and I've sent some texts to say, hey, I'm willing to talk to Trump. I mean, I doubt he's going to take me up on my offer. I mean, if he actually wants to do something that's right with the remainder of his term, which he's out of here, beginning of next year, unless maybe he declares martial law or somehow suspends the elections because he's now, considers himself a wartime president. So maybe he can find some way to suspend the elections. I don't know, so he can stay in office. I mean, that may be better than letting Biden in there. Who knows? But I mean, assuming it's a peaceful transition and he actually steps down when his term is up, we have Biden. But if he wants to do something between now and then, yeah, I mean, we need to go back on a gold standard. We need to. Hopefully, we still have gold in Fort Knox.
But we won't.
We have to let the bubble deflate.
You can't trust the third party.
We have to let capitalism work.
How do you not understand that, Peter?
Capitalism didn't cause the problem.
You can't trust
it's the only thing that can solve it.
The third party to keep the peg.
Politicians have to level with the public for a change, something they've never done, which is why I don't expect it. They have to say there is no free lunch. The government doesn't have anything. We've been lying to you for years.
You can't
We've
trust
been
them to
making
do that,
promises
Peter. How do
we
you
couldn't
not
keep.
understand that?
Social Security is bankrupt. Medicare is bankrupt. You're on your own. You know, that's what they need to say. We need a clean house. Trump promised to make America great again. If he wants to do that, he has to understand why America became great in the first place. And we became great.
Oh, that motherfucker with his pistol.
Damn,
Damn, my shit wasn't reloaded.
Rugged individuals. We had government taxes and regulations. None of these labor laws existed. And we created the richest society in the history of the world. Government destroyed that.
You can't trust humans,
We've
dude.
been bankrupt for a while. And,
how does Peter not understand that?
So yes, and I think that there is so much potential in this country if we do the right thing. And we have a lot of technology, we have a lot of infrastructure, we have all sorts of science and capital that we didn't have 250 years ago. So if capitalism worked as well as it did in the 19th century, it'll work even better in the 21st century. We could create the wealthiest country the world has seen.
Did that mine go down? Oh, damn.
Unfortunately, we're not going to do that.
Damn.
We're going to become a totalitarian society. We're going to adopt all the policies
Damn.
that have failed all over the world. The socialist policies that have never worked. Instead of going back to what made us great, we're going to go back to what made other countries impoverished.
Right, because humans are greedy. You can't trust humans.
Go to the next question here.
So how can you expect to trust the peg between paper and gold?
I can't see it. I have no idea. Do you know?
It's wishful thinking. You can't trust it. Gold has
We got
failed as
10,000
money.
people.
Gold
I don't know
has
if that's
failed
a
as
lot or
money.
little. We should have more people. But 10,000 is not bad. But tell your friends, next time I do it, I want to have 100,000. If everybody tells everybody else, we get more and more people. I know some kid, does a YouTube video reviewing a toy and he gets 1 million views. So we should be able to get 100,000 people that are interested in what's happening as the economy is completely imploding. But anyway, this question says, hey, Peter, I have some credit cards, but I also get some cash, and I've been stacking metals. Knowing that the banks and the dollar is going to collapse, is paying off credit card debt, pay credit card debt in the first place. The one debt that nobody should pay off is student loans. I mean, especially now, they have a moratorium on interest payments, so you can put your student loans into, forbearance or whatever they call it, where you don't have to make payments, because there's no reason to make any payments. It's possible that you'll never have to make a payment again. I mean, the government said they're going to suspend the interest. They may never reinstate it. This may be it. We may have already canceled the student loans de facto. But if they're not canceled, they'll be inflated away. So if you pay any of your student loans, you're completely foolish. Just don't pay anything and take the money that you would have used to pay off your loans and buy some silver or buy some gold, right? And if you're going to go to college, don't pay cash. You're a fool, right? I mean, somebody actually asked that question, Elizabeth Warren, somebody who had saved their money and paid for his daughter to go to college so she wouldn't have to graduate with debt. He said to her, what about me? I mean, if you forgive all the student loans, I mean, I had a neighbor who didn't save anything, took vacations, bought new cars, and so his daughter had to borrow money to go to college. If you forgive those loans, am I going to get my money back for paying cash?
Yeah, that's fucked up.
And she said, of course not, right? So if you do the right thing, you're going to get screwed. So the moral hazard is don't do the right thing, right? So don't pay for college, right? Let the government pay, or inflation pay for it, whatever. But I feel the same way about paying down a mortgage. If you have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, at below 4%, I would not be in a hurry to pay that off. I would be much more inclined to do something with the money. In fact, I like paying really good dividend-paying stocks, because if you have good dividend-paying stocks that aren't going to go out of business, where the dividends are relatively safe, the dividends will help you pay.
Well, I got a mine in there. Hopefully my boy doesn't go in.
To be able to pay that low mortgage. But I'm not a big fan of this high-yielding debt, even though a lot of credit card debt is non-recourse. I mean, or they can't really sue you. But if you have substantial financial assets, potentially they could. But hey, they just announced today a moratorium on evictions. So if you don't pay your rent, your landlord can't evict you. So I think a lot of people are going to stop paying their rent. That's the moral hazard of these programs. Yep. And who knows? Maybe they'll never allow eviction ever again. So people will never pay rent again. So now what does the landlord do? I mean, look, we are opening
Buy
up
Bitcoin.
a can
He
of
buys
worms,
Bitcoin.
right? This is going to be horrific. We are just unraveling. It's like dominoes of mistakes, one after another. One mistake causes another mistake, which causes another mistake. And the deeper we get into this, the more mistakes we make. I don't know. There was a movie about this guy, Rick Leeson, who was a trader in Singapore that worked for Barings Bank that eventually went bankrupt, was sold for $1. The movie is entertaining. I forget the name of it. It's a good movie. You can probably check it out on Netflix. But this guy made a bad trade.
Oh, headshotted me, dude.
And I think he was long, and the market went down. And he had a loss.
Shit, I got nades. I got mines in there.
So he buried it, and he kept trading, hoping to trade his way out of it. And the losses kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the more he tried to trade out of it, the bigger the losses got. And then, of course, the losses were so big, you might as well go for broke, which is exactly what he did. And he bankrupted the bank.
Got him with the mine.
But this is what we're doing. We're kind of like, we're making a mistake that compounds the last mistake. And so instead of admitting the mistake, we just make another, and we know where it's going.
Bitcoin, man. It's our best hope.
What is that? Someone's asked me about Executive Order 6102. I don't even know what it is. Oh, the confiscation of gold. Yeah, I don't think that that's going to happen again. People have to remember that when Roosevelt confiscated gold, they didn't confiscate it, right? They didn't send government troops to people's houses to get their gold.
I'm scared.
They passed a law that said if you have gold, you got to turn it in. Most people did not turn in their gold. That's why those old coins still exist. Because the coins that were turned in were melted down. So the old coins that we have are from people who broke the law and kept their gold.
I think close to 60.
But in any event, the reason I don't think we're going to do it again is because we were actually on the gold standard. And in order to do what Roosevelt wanted, he had to devalue the dollar. So before he devalued the dollar and made the dollar worth less, he wanted everybody to turn in their gold because he knew that after the devaluation, the gold would have much more value. And so he got the people who turned in their gold before they made it more valuable. So the people who didn't listen to the government, made out. They had a gain. But today, we're not on the gold standard. They don't need to confiscate gold.
Right.
The dollar has no value, so they don't have to devalue it. They just depreciate it. They just print as many as they want, like we just announced. Trillions and trillions.
I'm gonna put mines on these stairs outside the bomb plant.
Which was a good thing, which is why I like a gold standard. But that's also why politicians don't like a gold standard, because it stands in the way of them.
I got mines on the stairs on the outside of bomb plant.
So they don't need to take our gold. Now, the reason they may want to take our gold in the future
I hope they don't
is
forget to
if
bring C4.
they have to go back on a gold standard and we don't have enough gold to back our paper. They may try to do it. But if they're going to seize gold, maybe they're going to seize other assets too. Maybe they're going to seize stocks. Maybe they're going to seize real estate. Who knows what they're going to seize, right?
Oh, come on!
Gold is the hardest stuff to find. If they want to seize your stocks,
Damn.
they know exactly where those are because your broker is going to tell them. Right? I mean, but they don't know where your gold is.
What about
They don't know if
Bitcoin?
you bought gold, and if you bought it, they have no idea if you still have it. So I think gold is the asset that is least confiscatable because they can't find it. If you have it, right?
Can
They
you
can
take
find
it on
your
a plane?
stocks,
Can you
they
go
can
cross
find your real
borders with
estate,
it?
They can find your bank accounts. They can find all your assets.
Can you take your
that,
gold
that
with
are
you?
Third-party custodians that they control.
Really?
But they can't find any of the assets that you have yourself.
Yeah, right. Gold is
Right,
not
next
portable.
up,
That's the problem with
somebody
gold.
just told me the movie is Rogue Trader. Yep, that's the name of the movie. Thank you for that. Somebody paid me $5 to tell me that. I have one of his Bearing Futures trading jackets as trading memorabilia. Okay, that's pretty cool. So I'm surprised. I feel bad. Where you paid me to do me a favor and answer the question, I should be paying you the $5. Although it's $5 New Zealand dollars, so that's about $3 maybe. I don't know, it's not quite $5. Well, I thank you. Harper James, $375 question. Is that US dollars? Whoa, this is a record. I wonder if somebody can top that. If I get more of these, I can make a living doing this if I get $375 a question. All right, so let me see. Harper James. All right, this is going to have to be my best answer. I'm going to have to, Oh, I already answered it? Let me see. I already asked a question that I'm sure you will get to, but I want to send you some helicopter money before it becomes worthless. Well, it's not helicopter money if you create it. It's only helicopter money when the government creates it. But what I have to do with the money, you just be worthless. So
nice. Watch out, I got mines there.
And you're not going to use it to stock up on food and medical supplies and stock up in gold and silver. Because that way you'll be able to buy food and medical supplies in the future. But I must appreciate
oh my God, there's another one there.
$75.
Yeah, 2 mines on the stairs.
I'm happy to accept it. Anyway, Coleman.
Nah, don't bother placing mines.
At least it makes me feel that, you know, the thing about people giving me money is it shows me that people appreciate what I'm saying and what I'm doing. It's kind of like a gift to acknowledge that people value what I'm doing. Because I don't charge anything for my podcasts. I mean, they're all free. I don't have a special premium service where I save all the good stuff for. I give everybody whatever I got as far as
to you, burrito,
and so yeah, I mean, I try to because I want my content to reach as large an audience as possible, and so I know if I start charging for it, I'm going to diminish my audience. Even though I'll make money, I got plenty of money. I make money doing other things. This is public service. Although yeah, I do mention my companies. And but it's not so much just because I want to do business, which of course I do. I'm not pretending that I don't value doing business, and I have employees to pay and rent to pay and all that stuff. But I really think I'm doing a service. I mean, I think that everything that I'm doing is going to help people survive this economic attack.
Man, they're both over there.
It's not going to help you survive the coronavirus, but it will help you survive the damage done by the government because of the coronavirus, which is going to be far worse, right? The government's cure is much worse than that disease. Anyways, let me go to this $100 question. What advice would you give people in trouble? High debt, living paycheck to paycheck.
Shoot
no
that
real
motherfucker.
assets. Look, unfortunately, that's a lot of people. The good news for you is you don't have a lot of financial assets to get wiped out. Your debt's going to get wiped out. Inflation is going to wipe out the debts, right? So that's the good news if you have a lot of debt. The bad news is if you're owed that money, your asset is wiped out, right? The people who are going to get hurt the most are the older people who are now threatened by the coronavirus. And you know what's actually going to hurt them more than the coronavirus? Hyperinflation. A lot of older people are going to starve to death because their savings have been wiped out. I mean, that we're actually going to do more damage to the older people by destroying the value of their savings and their pensions and their annuities than by trying to protect them from the coronavirus. So, yes, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, I wouldn't be in a rush to pay any of my debts right now. I have a feeling they're going to have a moratorium too on credit card payments. They're going to say no one has to pay anything. So just stop. Don't pay. Use the cash that you have to stock up on real goods that are going to be in short supply.
All right, I'm going to mine up the doors of the bomb plant. Both doors of the bomb plant mined up.
To buy stuff. I mean, including, gas may be cheap, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll be rationing it. We could have rolling blackouts. Look, a lot of bad stuff's going to happen. So yeah, I would not be in a rush to make any debt payments right now. Whether or not you should stop paying your rent, that's a different thing. But obviously you can't get evicted. So, but the advice is stock up on real things, and be prepared. Be prepared for this. But the people who have financial assets have a lot more to lose financially. They got to do something. They got to sell these bonds and U.S. stocks and do what I've been advising people to do for years. Because we're about to find out exactly why I've been advising it and why I've been preparing people so early, because you don't know when it's going to happen. And it's better safe than sorry. Better late than never, right? You're either too early. You can't be too late, right? You can't be just in time. That's impossible to get that lucky. So you got to be early, because if you're late, you're too late. Next question is 200 Singapore dollars. Not bad, not bad.
Oh, he was in there.
Give advice to a long-term follower of yours.
Oh, the motherfucker was in there.
Multiple tools at his disposal, including Forex and the Singapore market. Look, I think that this is a great opportunity to short the U.S. dollar. The dollar is rallying because people are piling into it for liquidity reasons. There's a lot of noise in the market right now. But I think the dollar is a great short. I think the dollar is going to lose a lot of value against the Singapore dollar. So if you are a forex speculator, make sure you have enough cushion. Don't over leverage yourself so you get a margin call. But I think the Singapore dollar is going to go up against the US dollar dramatically. The Singapore economy obviously benefits a lot from the collapse in oil prices. Singapore doesn't produce a single barrel of oil. They import all their oil. So the fact that it's so cheap.
All right, I'm gonna mine this shit up again.
Everybody in Singapore. Singapore is one of the freest countries in the world as far as economic freedom, low regulation, low taxes. Singapore is going to come out on top. So I think Singapore assets are going to gain a lot of value relative to U.S. assets, and so you should be buying those assets. Next up, Jarvis Wynn, $20. I've been following you a while and listening to your podcast. What other steps can I take to become knowledgeable on the economy? Obviously, you can read any of the books I've written. Some of them are on schiffbooks.com. A lot of them, though, are really cheap. Some of my earlier books, because they've been out a while, I haven't written
Just
one.
learn about Bitcoin, bro. That's all.
The price that you can buy them on Amazon is less than it cost me to buy them for the publisher. They just won't have an autograph, but you can buy them. The Crash Proof 2.0 is paperback. The Real Crash, How an Economy Goes and Why It Crashes, collector's edition. But look, go and read Austrian economics. One of the best economics books that I read a long time ago was Henry Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson. Read that. Read rough stuff that Murray Rothbard wrote. He's a great economist, and some of the more, there's other people. I was just on his podcast today. Whose podcast did I do today? Tom Woods has written some books. There's other Austrian economists out there, who have written books that you can read to understand. Austrian economics
come
explains
on!
everything that's happening right now. Right? Forget about what the Keynesians have to say. That is the only school of thought that is actually accurate in their understanding of economics, and it follows through with the traditions of Adam Smith, who is the founder of economics. And you can also read, Adam Smith if you want to really go back and read his works. Next question: pay off credit card debt or buy gold? You get into student loans when you answer my question. Okay. Yeah, definitely don't pay off your student loans. Credit card debt, again, depends on your interest rate. But again, I have a feeling that you're not going to have to pay your credit card debt. Unless you're worried about your credit rating, but I wouldn't care about my credit rating, really, because I think everybody's credit rating is going to go to shit. And so nobody's is going to matter. I just wouldn't pay any bills, because I think that anybody who pays their bills is going to feel like an idiot for having paid them, because the people who don't pay them are going to get, forgiven. I'd rather take that money and put it into physical gold or physical silver. You can always sell the gold and silver later and pay the bills if you want to pay them. And I think that the price of gold and silver is going to go up, so you'll be able to pay them and have a little bit of money left over. Next question: is capitalism and the free market as we know it dying in America or dead? It's not dead. It's definitely dying, but it's close to dead. Maybe we're about to put the final nail in the coffin here, although obviously we're not in the coffin if we're still breathing. But look, Bernie Sanders, and I said this about the Trump victory. I said the most significant thing about the 2016 election was not that Trump won, but how well Sanders did in the primary. That is the big movement. It's the shift to the left, and Sanders is leading that shift.
Yep.
And everybody is shifted.
People are idiots.
The Republican Party is now the Democratic Party. In fact,
because people are greedy.
The Party is more liberal than the old Democratic Party. Of course, if you go back long enough, the Democratic Party was a great party. They believed in limited government. They were actually the Libertarian Party before there was a Libertarian Party. It was the Republicans that believed in bigger government. They wanted tariffs. They wanted protectionism. The Democrats were the free market party. That all changed with Roosevelt. FDR came in and really transformed the Democratic Party. Where was I? So It was the big move. Sanders has shifted everything. The Democratic Party has now shifted far, far left. It's really the Socialist Party now. And, you know, you've got AOC, who's out there, who was too young to run for president this time, but she's not going to be...
The only way to protect yourself is to buy Bitcoin.
So, yes, the ideas of socialism, communism, fascism...
It's the best way.
...are becoming more and more popular. You know, people don't realize that fascism and communism are both forms of socialism, right? They're different types of socialism. And a lot of people who are advocating socialism don't even realize that the particular type of socialism they're advocating is fascism, right? Fascism doesn't mean that you want to put people in concentration camps. Just because the Nazis also put people in concentration camps doesn't mean all fascists do that. Mussolini was a fascist. Italy was a fascist. They didn't have any concentration camps there.
No, I don't know.
It's not about racism. That's not what fascism is about. So you got to learn what fascism is and understand it. The Nazi Party is the National Socialist Party. That's what it stood for. So fascism is socialism. And the reason that the communists and the socialists, and the fascists rather, fought each other, the reason why they argued, it wasn't because they had so much
I got mines on the doors
because they had so much
and one on the stairs.
They were like
the
two
bomb plant.
rival gangs fighting over the same turf. What is my view on real estate in Canada? Do you think lower rates will continue for a few years? And will real estate prices collapse? First of all, I get a note, you know, people, I shouldn't be telling people not to pay their bills. Hey, it's not me saying that. That's what the government is saying. Everybody that's coming on TV is saying people should just have a moratorium. Don't pay your bills if you don't have your job. If you're living, don't struggle, right? That's what the government is saying. That's the whole point of what Ackman was saying. Hey, let's just all stop paying our bills for a month, and we'll just take a month off, and then we'll resume a month from now. In the meantime, the government's going to pay all the bills, right? That's what they're saying, right? So I'm just, you know, I'm just reiterating that and basically saying the government is creating a moral hazard. And you got to decide, you know, whether you want to be a sucker or not, whether you want to be the guy that does the right thing and who gets punished for doing the right thing, right? No good deed goes unpunished. That's a saying for a reason. But I'm not advocating that people do anything with respect to their bills. People just make their own decisions about what bills they want to pay and what bills they don't. Let me see. Oh yeah, I'm going to go back to Eric Lambert's question on real estate. Look, real estate has been in a bubble in Canada, been a bubble in the U.S. There are a lot of countries that have real estate bubbles. Real estate prices are coming down. In terms of gold, they are coming way down. I said the stock market is going to go way down in terms of gold, so will real estate. So if your goal is to get the best deal on real estate, don't buy it now. Buy your gold now, and then use your gold to buy real estate in the future when it's really, really cheap. I mean, if you're thinking about it from an...
All right, I'm going to mine up this door again.
Anything that was artificially inflated during the bubble, anything that people borrow money to buy, right, is going to come crashing down in real terms. Now, here's the other flip side. If we have hyperinflation, real estate prices are going to go up.
And the stairs again.
But real estate prices aren't going up. The dollar is going down. So it looks like real estate prices are going up, but they're actually going down. Because the price of other things like food, the percentage increase of food will be faster than real estate. In fact, your electric bill, your maintenance bills will be going up a lot faster than the value of your house, right? Because that's what happens when you have, you know, a lot of inflation. All right, next question from Carbon Snail, 20 bucks. I am a single, retired federal employee, no wife, no kids. I get $4,000 a month. Should I weather the storm in Las Vegas or Thailand? I don't know too much about Thailand. Vegas, you know, I mean, obviously they probably shut that place down, so normally pretty crowded. They'll close down the casinos.
Fucking suck.
You know, you live where you feel like living. The problem is you're $4,000 a month. One day that's not going to be worth very much because of hyperinflation, and you're stuck with that. So I would try to make sure that you use some of that $400 a month now to buy some gold and silver, so you'll be able to buy stuff later. Because I think eventually anybody who's living on a fixed income, all these retirees are going to be broke and they're going to have to go back to work.
All right, I'm gonna mine up the door and
other
around
thing
the
you can do,
building.
too, is stock up on stuff. So the minute you get your $4,000 check, don't just buy the stuff you need this month. If you can buy stuff that's not going to perish that you'll need next month or the next, just buy that, because the prices are going to go up in the future and they may not even be available. They may not even be on the shelves. So you might as well buy them while you can. Next question. Why is the dollar in jeopardy of losing the reserve status if all central banks are doing the same thing? Here is the reason. Number one, the U.S. economy is unique in the way it's structured. Because we've had the reserve currency for so long, we have a service sector economy that nobody else has. 70% of our GDP is consumers spending money. They're spending borrowed money to buy imported products. So we live beyond our means. We use the reserve currency to borrow without saving and to consume without producing. America is much more vulnerable to what is happening right now around the globe. Other countries have been producing the things that we consume. They have been saving the money that we borrow. Those economies are in much better shape to weather this particular downturn. So the U.S. is particularly vulnerable. No other country is going to lose the reserve currency status because they don't have it to lose. And when the dollar is no longer the reserve currency, our economy is uniquely vulnerable. And I do think that as inflation really takes hold worldwide, and it will, nobody is going to escape inflation. Yes, all the central banks are inflating their money, and everybody is going to have to deal with that. But other countries that are making the mistakes of keeping interest rates too low and doing these asset purchase programs because their official inflation rates are still below 2%. When those inflation rates go to 5%, 10%, wherever they're going to go,
all right, same thing. Got mine.
they have the ability
bomb plant.
to do something to fight inflation. It will be painful, but they will fight it. America has no ability to fight inflation because it will be agonizingly painful, much worse because we have so much more debt. We'd have to raise interest rates so much higher, and we have a much bigger bubble. So I think other countries will fight off hyperinflation because they can. We won't fight off hyperinflation because we can't. I mean, we can, but practically we can't because the cost of doing it is so horrific that no politician will be willing to pay the price. Next question from Nikki Adamask. I invested in the market and lost 25% in gold when you predicted the crash last week. I don't understand. Who could have invested in gold last week and already lost 25%? Gold didn't fall 25%. Gold is only 10% from its highs. So assuming that you bought gold on the absolute highs, which was $1,700, you're down 10%. During that time, not only have stocks gone down more, but bonds have gone more. People who bought bonds, U.S. Treasuries at the high, lost more than people who bought gold at the high. But anyway, let me finish this question. I invested in the market and lost 25% in gold when you predicted the crash last week. I sold it. Can I get back in and thrive with gold stocks and profit? And will silver profit? All right. I don't understand how you lost 25% in physical gold.
Digital gold.
Leverage,
whoa.
maybe you were in. I don't know. I mean, but assuming you lost some money in physical gold. You
that
it
motherfucker!
You already sold it, and you lost money.
Snipe my shit.
Yes, I mean, you can buy back gold stocks now, which have gone down much more than gold has. And I think they will go up much more than gold's going to go up. I mean, I think when gold goes to...
How the hell did they get up in there to plant that shit?
1,500. When it goes to 2,000, as the dollar is tanking, I think stocks that you can buy now, gold stocks, will be triple what they are right now. That's my speculation. So a 25% move in the price of gold, you can triple your money in gold stocks. So if you're willing to take a risk, because if I'm wrong, you could lose a lot more in gold stocks than physical gold. So if you have some money,
he ran over to mine.
Yes, I think you can make.
All right, that's gonna be it for this one. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Peter, for the commentary.
Let Adrian Day.
You the man. Catch you on the next one. Later.